is a very interesting water cistern. Now please notice we're in chalkstone. Chalkstone does not let the water through. It's an aquiclud. And what they did here, they made channels from the top of the tel where we were standing before. Notice we went downhill to the northern slope of Tel Beit Shemesh. And this is from the Iron Age too. This is apparently from the 9th century BCE, from the days of the for the kingdom of Judah, in the mountains just to our east. And this is a very interesting cistern, mainly because of its shape. We came in on the western wing. There's a northern wing, an eastern wing, and a southern wing and a northern one. So it's actually like a cross. Why isn't it just wide and open? So the ceiling won't collapse.
They need like support beams.
In this way, they actually made support beams, but made a very large open space, channeling all the rainwater from the top into this spot. And right here above us is where people threw their jugs or buckets down into the cistern to bring water up. Till this day, this is the only major water cistern we have in Tel Beit Shemesh. They did not discover any system earlier that collects water or reaches anything. And it's very interesting because the stream is nearby. So you can actually say most of the time, with the flow of the springs into the stream, there'll be something to drink. Today, please do not drink from the select stream.
Why?
Why? Because part of the sewage from the Jerusalem district flows through it. There is a rehab site and everything, but I wouldn't drink from it. Let's say that. In that way, so we actually have a site that's actually well located, connecting to the main road going west towards the Philistine plain, to the road going up towards the Judean mountains in Jerusalem. This is a very good location. And this takes me very quickly to two things. One is an archaeological find, the other is a biblical story. I'll start with the archaeological find. In the late Bronze Age fancy building, maybe we should even call it a palace, discovered in Tel Beit Shemesh in the Bar Ilan University excavations in the 1990s, they discovered a full kitchen, destroyed and burnt. The kitchen was just burnt, and they were able to retrieve from the jugs and from the floor loads of botanical information of what was going to be cooked tomorrow morning. And actually found botanical relations with Egypt, with Cyprus, actually telling us of international relations and connections that this city had, including something very interesting, a poisonous plant.
Oh,
And
for
it's
medicine,
And one of the explanations is usually medicine, but here it's actually a cultic use for that in Egypt. I don't know if it's for hallucinations and drugs, but something in that track that actually they were able to identify in the kitchen here in the late Bronze Age.
This plan?
What?
How do you identify this plan?
How did they identify? Or how do I do it now? I don't know, we don't.
We can't.
You have to taste it.
We prefer not to.
Taste it.
Well, where was it found in the southern part of the Tel?
We can't see it.
As much as I know, there's nothing really left of it you could see. But what was taken was actually archaeobotanically identified under microscopes. They found the remains of the sometimes kernels of the grain, sometimes remains of the stems and so on that we're able to identify. Actually, in the Bar Ilan University is one of the only botanical labs that deals with seeds, discovered all over Israel, and identifying them and noticing when is the first time we have this seed or that seed, and actually noticing the international connections and commerce going on. So that was one thing interestingly discovered here. I'll just tell you that Professor Udi Weiss from Bar Ilan University, that was the head of this research, gave a lecture, an online lecture on Zoom in the amazing COVID days, where you have loads of these. I'm sure you can still find it. Of course, it was in Hebrew, but I'm sure you can still find it with the pictures of all the foods and the ornaments that to connect the place to a fancy kitchen of a palace. And here comes the interesting thing. In that palace, they had quite a lot of evidence that apparently whoever ruled it was not a king, but actually a queen, which was also an interesting talk. So that was one archaeological finding. Now I'm going to a biblical story. in 1 Samuel chapter 4, after Samuel became a prophet and a leader, though we mentioned this in Nebi Samuel when we were there, and we'll talk about it in a long, long time, it'll be in Shiloh, in the war against the Philistines in a place called Eben Ezer, identified in Rosh Ha'ain, more or less today. The tribes of Israel took from the tabernacle in Shiloh, they took the Ark of the Covenant to enhance their powers in the war, and of course they lost. And the Ark of the Covenant was taken captive by the Philistines, and for the next many months it's moving around city to city in the Philistine plains, destroying, burning, and destruction going on. And the Philistines say, we had enough.
They
So
sent
what
it
do
with
they
the
do?
bulls.
They put it on a wagon that the mothers
bulls.
that just gave birth were carrying. They put next to the ark a case with golden offerings to repent, and they put the children, the calves of these mother cows behind them. Usually a mother calf would go towards the calf, as happened to me yesterday when I was feeding the calves in the milk ranch where I live, and one of the mothers was moving around and quite annoying. She was looking at what we were doing. Anyways, back to the story. So the Philistines are walking behind the wagon and seeing that the mothers are going straight ahead along the passageway, along the road, directly, and they stop at the limits of Beit Shemesh. And then the people of Beit Shemesh suddenly see a wagon arriving, led by these cows, with the Ark of the Covenant on it, so they remove the ark, put it on a rock, and start celebrating.
Miracle. And then they die.
And then
They were afraid.
and then they start dying. There's an interesting number there, how many people are dying, 70, 50,000.
People start dying?
People start dying because they saw the Ark of the Covenant that officially is also always supposed to be hidden and unseen. So Beit Shemesh is actually described here as the limit, the borderline between the Israelite tribes and the Philistines, and the Sorek stream that we've been looking at is actually the way into the lowlands, and the mountains of those days. So this is a story that takes place in Beit Shemesh, one out of several, and from here the ark will be taken up to
Abinadav, Kiryat Yearim,
in the house of Abinadav up in the mountains,
and then to Jerusalem.
till eventually will be taken to Jerusalem by
Right.
King David, and that's in 2 Samuel already. So here we can actually see the entrance into the tribes along this specific valley, which was a very important passageway and connection between other areas and other cultures and the specific district. So notice this nice place from the 9th century BC, part of the fortified city of Beit Shemesh from the Judean kingdom. What did they have before? We don't know yet. But this is a nice spot, quite accessible, except the very crooked stairs on the way down, and unfortunately on the way up as well.